In the longer Amitabha Sutra, I guess even in other sutras from the Pure Land tradition, we hear about how all the features of this Sukhavati, this Pure Land, this happy land of joy land, we hear about how everything teaches us the Dharma is being expounded everywhere. I think it's easy to see what this means. It's pretty obvious. The Pure Land's not far away. We can learn a lot just by watching a stream. When we open our Dharma eyes, we see wonderful things. A frightened mind looks out on the world and sees a war zone. And the mind, lost in the war zone of its own creation, becomes frightened. And continuing in this way, the mind system, since beginningless time, has been tying knots, being confused by, burdened by addiction, aversion, and apathy. Sentient beings, or the nodes of the network of consciousness, spiral on and on and on until they awaken. There are those that seek and those that find their own awakening, but are unable to convey their truths. There are others who seek for others' awakening and find awakening on their own for their own selves. In the Vimalakirti Sutra, we learn that it is an impure mind that sees an impure Buddha realm or universe. And there's nothing wrong with this place. The teaching asserts that this realm only seems difficult, and that the difficulty is just a method that Shakyamuni Buddha uses to guide beings. Here in this universe we experience a lot of suffering, and it pushes us along. It stokes the fire of our awakening. Beings born into Shakyamuni Buddha's realm are quickened along the way, and this Buddha realm is quite wonderful. These kinds of teachings help us move beyond aversion. Buddha's Dharma is beyond addiction, aversion, and his student said something like, show us the place you are. Reveal that other realm to us. And he was like, you examine the heavens and the earth, but you don't know the one standing in front of you, and you don't know how to examine this present moment. And here in these kinds of teachings, Jesus is obviously saying something similar to what was said by the Buddha. Whether or not there is a historical link is irrelevant. They're touching upon the same truths. Why? Because wherever there are humans, there will be human problems, human solutions, there will be similarities. But yeah, things change. There are cultural differences. And with great skill, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas present the appropriate teachings to the people. Every day, everywhere, always walking in the kingdom, addicted to the obscurations originating from the activity of false imagination. Master Huang Po, that Buddha and sentient beings are two sides of one thing beyond thingishness. When mind enters into differentiation, there are sentient beings, and the elements that support sentient beings, and the sense fields, the ayatanas, the sense organs, sense objects, and the connection between those two, which is sense consciousness, the vijnanas. Dropping all that, going beyond, going through. My friends, suppose someone says, please give me advice. I need your guidance. If that person is difficult to talk to, difficult to deal with, impatient, intolerant, not good at accepting constructive criticism or words of advice, of instruction from friends in the practice, then those walking on the path of sublime conduct will think, this person is not one to be spoken to. not one to be instructed, not someone to have confidence in. So how do you avoid becoming that person? Infer your own state by considering the state of others in the following way. That person has wrong desires and it's difficult to deal with them. If I had those same wrong desires, I would also be difficult to deal with. When you see this clearly, make the following determination. May I not be attached to wrong desires or be controlled by these wrong desires. Use this method of reflecting to understand the value of... There's this notion that we need to be perfectly awakened before we can share the Buddha's Dharma, but I think it's a dangerous idea. There are a couple of sayings from the Gospel of Thomas that are relevant here. What we hear, we proclaim it from the rooftops. No one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, nor in a hidden place. We put it on a stand so that all who come and go will see its light. So we hear something that's true. It feels good in the beginning, middle, and end. We benefit from it. There is less suffering. We know it's good. We share it. That's cool. But there's another saying. The next one. If a blind person leads a blind person, both will fall in a hole. So, on the other hand, we need a good foundation still. Somebody has to see. And so I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. If others speak in dispraise of me, don't get upset. If you get angry or upset, you will only be creating an obstacle for yourselves. And if you get all angry and upset, will you be able to speak clearly about the Buddha's teaching? Would you be able to recognize whether or not what the other is saying is true or false? Probably not. When we get angry, we think less clearly, and there are reasons for this. Things happen in the brain that shut down our ability to discern clearly. So if people make you angry and upset, just try to calm down and say, this is true, this is false. And if you're calm, you'll be able to say, this is why. The same goes for too much wild praise. In either case, we just try not to get too worked up. Another beautiful morning.